This is the Castlevania Aria of Sorrow Invisible World Challenge. So I had the idea to do this challenge run, and I opened up YYCHR looking for all of the tile data, because I was thinking, oh, okay, I'll just remove all of the tiles, I'll paint them all black, and then nothing will be left except for the sprites. I couldn't find them, so instead what I did all of the background tile data is just not rendered to the screen. The only thing that the Game Boy Advance is rendering to the screen is the sprite layer. Only the sprites, which is basically the player character, your weapons, enemies, and we'll see what else. So I named my save file Can't See, and let's get started. I already have a cleared game save file, so I can press start to skip cutscenes. Not that there's any, dialogue to read. The first area of this game has a bunch of background elements that are actually rendered as sprites, like these clouds and the bats. Doing this challenge, we get to see some tricks that the game is using to render all of its graphics. So this is a big test coming up. I'm going to be opening the menu for the first time to try to equip this short sword. We can see the short sword, we can't see the menu, we can't see anything in the menu. If you scroll down from the soul menu, you're at equipment, and then in the equipment menu, you can see the icons. So I can kind of use that to feel around and equip items. So that's great. Otherwise, it's just the player character Soma and the enemies. And that's all we're really gonna get. Pretty much every room in the game has a different kind of base background layer color, which is most of what we're going to see. It's interesting that there's so many of them. Here's the first save room, and this is the first time I had the thought of, oh, why don't I check the map? There's nothing rendered to the map, so the map is not useful. Breakable walls are painted onto the game world as sprites, so that's kind of cool. We can just see all breakable walls. Next, we have to go into this room to pick up the flying armor soul. I still haven't opened the soul menu. I don't yet know how bad that will be. Made it back to this save room up here. So here's the soul menu. There's not much to see. Because the soul menu is almost completely empty, it was easy to kind of feel around and equip the flying armor, which I need to cross the big gap in this room. Flying armor is technically optional. If you space a backdash jump off of that platform, you can make that jump. I had a feeling that flying armor would help me maneuver around rooms, make some jumps that I can't see. Here's another background element that's secretly a sprite. That wind-billowing door. And there's another one in this room. There's that peeping eye that's actually in the background layer. It's not an interactable enemy. So right now I have to cross the entire castle, kind of arcing over it and around, in order to get to the next area, which is the chapel and then the study hall. Now you'll notice I'm killing a lot of enemies here, and that's because I was thinking at this point that I would need a bunch of health if, for example, I couldn't see spikes, and I was trapped in spikes. Here's a cutscene. Not much to see. The text box is completely empty. No text on the screen. No text anywhere in the game, except for numbers. So here we are in the chapel. Very red. I had the thought of maybe I could go up to the room above this to pick up the rapier, which is a pretty good weapon upgrade right now. But because that's a big room and Soma would just be in the middle of the screen at all times because the room is big, that would make it really hard to maneuver around in there and find where to go. So instead, I stick with the short sword. In every one of these save rooms, the wall is a sprite pasted over, and I think that's because every single save room in the game is actually the same room, but whether there's a right exit save room or a left exit save room, it can just paste the wall over the other edge. This game, Aria of Sorrow, doesn't have any save rooms that you can walk through. No save rooms with a right exit and a left exit, that's kind of a neat design choice that I'd never really thought about. The previous games, Harmony of Dissonance and Symphony of the Night, both have save rooms like that. This one doesn't. Every save room in this game is a dead end on the map. So here's Manticore, the next boss. Even though I didn't upgrade my weapon, it's still pretty easy. We made it to the study, and we just picked up an enemy soul. Look at that. It's the Evil Butcher. So I could switch to that if I wanted to, but again, I kind of want to minimize the time I have to spend in the soul menu because I can't see anything in there. The ectoplasm cursed me, so I lost all of my MP. Funny thing about that, I can't see my MP. I have no idea how much MP I have for the entire game. It's actually pretty lucky for this challenge that the health value is a sprite. So at least I can see the numerical value of my health, but my health bar is gone. My mana bar is gone. So any MP that I have, I just have to feel it out. I can either throw sub-weapons or I can't, you know? And I know that there's a save room right here. So even though I was at kind of low health, that's fine. And now I'm making my way to the next boss, the Great Armor. Hello, Yoko. I stand for a second here and kill this Minotaur in case the Minotaur dropped its soul. The Minotaur soul would be really helpful because it's a flat strength up, so that's just every weapon is better all the time, forever. And I duck into the side over here to go into this room. It's a pretty simple room. I have a feeling it'll be easy to feel around it, even if this student witch enemy knocks me down. Because it's just kind of a backwards C shape, and my reward for going in here is the whip sword. Again, in the equipment menu, I can see the icon of the item, so I can use equipment, even though I can't see stats. Whether a weapon deals more damage, whether an armor piece has more or less defense, I just have to know that going in, or else it's not worth equipping anything at all. And here's Great Armor. The whip sword makes this guy pretty easy. I deal a lot more damage now, and I still have that winged skeleton sub-weapon equipped. This guy will go down in no time. I heard the sound effect that I got a drop from beating that Great Armor, and it was in fact armor, so I equipped that. That's a lucky drop. And now we meet Hammer, so the shop is now open at the start of the game. I have no idea if I'll be able to use the shop, or if nothing will be there at all, then maybe I won't be able to use the shop. So that's something to look forward to. And the real reward for coming in here is double jump. We're moving up in the world. So here I spend a moment killing this Minotaur again a couple more times, just in case it drops its soul. A flat strength upgrade would be really nice, and eventually I do get a drop from this Minotaur, but it's not its soul, it's a rare weapon instead, a battle axe. So anything that's trivial, like this grinding here, I'm going to speed up, but in the description of this video I'll link the full recording of the run. It doesn't have any commentary. I didn't play this with a microphone on, and I had no idea how far I might be able to get without being able to see the entire game world. Alright, we have double jump, and now we have to escape the study, and then make it back to near the start of the game in order to proceed to the next area, which is the dance hall. This bone pillar enemy dropped its soul, and that's pretty unlucky because eventually that will clutter the menu. Here's one of the tougher rooms so far. It's vertical, and there are small platforms, and you just have to kind of make it up to the top. And I have a vague memory of where the platforms are, but you need to be kind of precise with it. And that's the part that's, you know, just a little tough when there's nothing there. Back in the chapel, and I'm going to try to sneak around to the left here to go this kind of top path. Hopefully I can reach the warp room, because the warp room up here will take me straight to the beginning of the game, and then we'll be on our way. This is the first time we're in a big room with kind of complex movement in it. So the player characters are kind of locked to the middle of the screen. I duck into this room on the side because that kind of anchors my progress. And now I have to try to jump up the left side of this room. I know there are platforms here, and we need to reach the warp room, which is at the top left. I'll show on the screen what this side of this room looks like. So that's where I'm trying to go. But I might have a little bit of trouble here. Eventually I make it to the warp room. I forgot that there's this little lip you have to jump over in the warp room. And now we're back at the start of the game. So this is a big moment. We're checking out the shop. Is the shop usable? There's buy and sell. In the buy menu, we can see the icon of the item. This is huge. In the sell menu, we can see the icon of the item. This is huge. So we can use the shop. The funny thing, of course, about using this shop is there's no way to tell how much money I have. Talk to Mina for the free heal, and we're on our way. Might as well equip this cape item. It's something like +1 defense. Why not, right? So next we have to make our way to the dance hall, and that's in this room before the first boss, which is kind of wide and very, very, very tall. So here I am, going for a second in the wrong direction. I'm trying to find platforms that send me up, but I'm on a little offshoot. Eventually I figure that out, I go back to the right side of the room, and I keep jumping. The enemies and also these little candles, which are just flames floating in the air, can help guide me through this weird room. And here we are in the dance hall. This is a kind of short area. There's another cutscene that I can press start to skip through. The background colors are kind of jarring, aren't they? Bright white, now bright lime green. The dance hall is a reasonably sized area, but the path you need to take is pretty small. There's a lip to jump over at the end of that room. And here we are already at the boss. This time it's Big Golem. I threw a winged skeleton spear, and that does pitiful damage, unless I double hit. I use a few of those, but really it's all about getting hits in with the battle axe. And there we go, we made it. And surprise, Big Golem dropped its soul, so that's one more blue soul in that menu that I'll have to navigate around. And we pick up the ever-important ability to slide on the floor. This room is kind of awkward trying to make it up there. And this room, too. I know there are platforms. Eventually I find it. There's a free high potion there that we can access now that we can slide. And this is another vertical room. Some platforms are on the left, some are on the right. I try for a minute here to reach the top of this room with all the ghost dancers. And then I give up and loop back around because I know I can jump up through the adjacent room. There's a part in this hallway where I have to slide, and I don't know where it is, but I make it through. And here's another breakable wall that I just break for fun, even though I can't reach that yet. And we're already in the inner quarters. I was about to move on here, and then I remembered that through this breakable wall, there's not just a free high potion, but a second breakable wall. And in here, there's samurai armor, or maybe it's called like ninja garb or something. But that's an upgrade to our defense, or at least I think it is. I don't know for sure, but I equip it anyway. Another vertical room, kind of back and forth staircases. And there's another enemy soul. It's the Durga, which shoots a sword as a straightforward projectile. I found my way to the save room. And here's the next boss, Headhunter. This is one of the bigger spectacle-type bosses in this game. It's 3 phases. Each of them is pretty simple on its own, but you have to get through all of them in a row. The wizard goes down, and now it's time for the lizard. There's a platform in the middle somewhere, I just land on it. And the 3rd phase of Headhunter gives me a really nice pattern where it's mostly on the ground. Even though I take a bunch of damage, it was easy for me to deal a lot of damage. So here I go into the soul menu and I equip a yellow soul. I assume, because I only have 1 yellow soul, that must be Headhunter. And next I have to go up into this room. At the top of this room there's a pretty good sword and Undyne, the soul that lets you walk on water, which is necessary to proceed. Undyne is technically skippable. You don't need it. You can do a funky corner jump from the water to make it up to the next area of the game, the floating gardens. But I have no idea how hard that jump might be without being able to see. Because of the enemy placements, it's not that hard to make it up into this room. But now I have to go back down. And this is another one of those big rooms where it's hard to know if I'm making any progress because the player character is just in the middle of the screen the whole time. The background in this room flashes every once in a while. It has to do with a background effect that's supposed to be on the screen, but it's not. I've darkened this section of the footage just in case it's a little bit easier on the eyes. And this is kind of lucky, kind of unlucky. I got the Curly Soul. The Curly Soul is a rush soul. It's one of those blue souls that you use with the R button. I could use that later to try to get the Claim, which is the best weapon in the game. But that's kind of really out of the way. And because the game world is invisible, I'm trying to take the path of least resistance as much as possible. I wouldn't want to put myself in a position where I'm completely lost. Back to the shop, I can sell some items that I know I'm not going to use. And I look through the weapons, but I just got a really good weapon. So I buy a few potions and then I'm out of there. Back to the save room, up through this room one more time. I got lost here for a second. I'm stuck in the merman section. And then I realized I had to go to the right in order to go up. There's a really lucky soul drop, the Peeping Eye, although that's unlucky for us because it'll just clog up the menu. We jump up this platform here. We already have the Undyne Soul equipped from the inner quarters, so we can jump up on this platform and make our way to the next area, the floating gardens. Getting lost in here would be really bad, but luckily, all I'm trying to do here is get to the clock tower, so all I have to do is go to the left. Once I get to the floating gardens maze section, if you can call it that. And here we are in the clock tower. We're speeding up, we're slowing down, we're on a gear, we're on a giant cog. We cannot see the giant cogs, and I just faceplant directly into spikes. We cannot see the spikes. This is bad news. I get stuck on a big cog there, but we make it. So this area is covered in spikes in vertical rooms that we have to make our way up. It's at this point that I'm thinking this area has potential to be the end of the run right here. Behind this breakable wall is a really nice weapon upgrade that deals holy damage, which is useful for almost the whole game. So I equip that mysterious nameless sword, as every item is nameless, and I go back to the save room, and now it's time to climb. Jumping into spikes, jumping off of these moving platforms. I make it through that first room, and this room should be pretty easy. It has all these platforms that I can see. It has the enemies, of course, and it has a couple candles, so I can kind of grasp where everything is. No. I then jump directly into spikes several times in a row. I'm trying to get a feel for where the platform might be. And this is the first time I get to really low health. So here's the item screen. And just like the equipment screen, even though I can't read what items are, I can see the little icon. So I can use a couple potions, top up my health, and try again at this room. This room is kind of kicking my ass. There must be some kind of platform on the left side that lets me go up. And I finally find it. I'm almost there. Walk into spikes, 48 health, 21 health. Let's use some more potions. I had no qualms at all about using healing items in this run. The difficulty of the game itself is not the point of this challenge. I'm freely using potions and healing items. This is about, can I find my way? So we're nearly to the boss now. There's a great armor in our path. I heard the sound effect that this great armor dropped something, and I'm not quite sure what it is. I looked through the weapon slot because I thought it might be the final sword, but I'm pretty sure that's the final guard who drops the final sword. And even though it cost us most of our healing items, we make it to the next boss, Death. Because I picked up that decent weapon, this boss shouldn't be too much trouble. But if I, for example, jump into a sickle and that bounces me off directly into the big scythe 3 times in a row, that could do a number on my health, which it does. We make it to phase 2, give Death a couple more whacks. He has a couple attack patterns, but I know them all. It's pretty easy. I could pause the game and heal now, but I don't need to. I slide to the left here as fast as I can after defeating Death, because he kind of throws his big scythe, and that still has a hitbox. That can still kill you. And we pick up the Skula Soul. With that equipped, we can walk not on top of the water, but underwater. I pick up this bag of money here. I don't know how much money it gave me, and I don't know how many potions that can buy me. But I assume it's some, and so I pick it up. Now we're just making our way down the clock tower, which is much easier than up, even though I jump into spikes a couple times. Damage boost through a couple enemies, no problem. Back at the save room, and here I haven't quite decided if I want to try to go up and out the way I came through the floating gardens, or down. The difficulty here is I'll need to equip the Skula Soul. And I decided to do this because I'll need this anyway. I'll have to do it either now or later. And this is the first time the soul menu gives me a lot of trouble. I have a bunch of yellow souls to choose from. I have no idea which one is Skula. And every time you select a new soul, it kind of rearranges the menu. So I have no idea where Skula is in the list, even though I only have something like 5 or 6 yellow souls. Finally, I picked the right one and we can move on. And this is just a couple more clock tower rooms here. And off to the right is the warp. Once again, we warp back to the start of the game. I slide around for a minute trying to find the path down, but we get there. How about a quick shopping trip? After being in the clock tower and bouncing on all those spikes in a way, in such a manner, I top back up on potions, and we are moving on to the underground waterway. This is a large area where the danger of getting lost is pretty real. I think about grabbing this pendant, and then I'm like, why? No. Here we have a long room with boats and killer fish. And we fall straight into the water because we already have Skula equipped, so that's perfect. We have everything we need to continue on. We pick up a tasty steak, or juicy steak, whatever that item is called. Let me know in the comments if you know what that item is called, because I sure don't. In this room, we have to travel down, and I know that there's a save room here, but we still need to travel all the way to, I think it's the bottom, or close to the bottom, and find another right side exit. We get cursed and lose all of our MP. Not that I can see the MP anyway. I'm jumping up here trying to find a right exit, but I'm pretty sure it's further down. There we go. Here's another horizontal room. This one has a bunch of these nightmare enemies in it. And these guys have one of the best souls in the game, one of the best sub-weapon souls. So I do bother fighting this guy. No Nightmare Soul this time, but that's okay. Less clutter in the soul menu is a good thing. I walk straight through the Mandragora room. Do not care. So this is a real crossroads. This is a large room where if I really wanted to, I could move up and get access to both a warp and the path to the forbidden area. I have everything that I would need right now to access the best sword in the game, but I don't think I'm doing that. I do go in this room to the right down here because there's a nice armor set called the Armor of Water that I imagine raises my defense, although I can't know for sure. And then it's off to the left to this room with all these Gorgons and some Tritons. The Gorgon drops its soul. I think that's an intelligence boost, which will raise the attack power of your sub-weapons, but that's really not necessary. And I'm pretty sure I never think about the fact that I have that ever again. But mostly in this room, it's a whole bunch of these Tritons. These guys have kind of an awkward hitbox, at least with the sword that I have equipped right now. And I do bother killing all of these Tritons because the soul they drop is another one of those flat plus strength bonuses. So that would be really nice. So I'm going down here in this room. This is toward an optional boss and another one of these breakable walls. This one has a pudding in it. That's another one of those free health items I can use later if I need. And there's an optional boss, Legion, over here, which I will fight just kind of for fun. But it is also required to come down here because there is this enemy, the Flame Demon. And this is a random drop soul that is necessary to beat the game. And so I leave the room and I come back, the enemy respawns, and I whack him a couple times again. And he's being really stingy with his soul. The drop rate is really high on this guy's soul. Finally, I get it. And I take this opportunity to equip it right now because I realize once I equip this red soul, I don't need to change that equipment slot ever again. There's the Skeleton Archer soul, there's the Durga soul, there's the Skeleton soul. There it is, finally. Flame Demon. And it helps that this Flame Demon soul is way better than the sub-weapon we were previously using. It's a pretty big upgrade. The only downside is it uses a ton of MP, which I cannot see, but I can hold up and press B and try to use sub-weapons, and if Flame Demon doesn't come out, then I don't have enough MP. So here's Legion. I'm just kind of fighting this guy for fun. It's an optional boss. I guess it would be nice if I get a level up out of it. Increase some stats. And now that I've gotten half of the shell taken down, I can camp out on the right here. And that is actually a lucky soul drop. The Legion boss is not guaranteed to drop its enemy soul unless you clear all 4 of the parts of the shell before you take down the boss proper, but there is still a chance that you get the soul. This Were-Jaguar combos the heck out of me like it's a fighting game. This backdash while slashing through the fire looks pretty cool. That's probably the most visually interesting part of this run. And now I have to climb out of this vertical shaft. I have to go all the way up and to the left. And I know I make progress if I see this gargoyle enemy and then an Ukobak. I can jump and I can double jump and I can use the flying armor to extend my jump a little bit more. And I'm all the way back at the bottom of the screen again. This room gives me so little feedback about where I am. I basically only have the enemies and the spots where I can stand. And that's all I got. These bats spawn, so I know I'm making progress. This is for sure one of the hardest rooms in the game, if you can't see the game world. And we're on to the arena. There's a little lip in the previous room I had to jump over. And here's another one of those big rooms, where the only thing I can use to gauge my progress through the room is the placement of enemies and a couple candles. But I know I can kind of snake my way in kind of a zigzag pattern and make it up to the top. And right up here to the right is the warp room. So I can use this to go back to home base, heal up, and how about a little shopping? Shopping with no money. Right back to the arena. And the arena, just like the dance hall, only has a pretty small number of required rooms to go through on the main path to the boss. So that is where we'll go. Lucky food item drop from that killer mantle. Here's the save room. And this is what the elevator room looks like, with only the sprites, in case you were curious. And here we are onto the next boss, Giant Bat, Castlevania throwback. And here we are to the next boss, Balor. When I whack this boss and I see the number 39, I realize that I could have gone up through the arena and picked up a really good sword called the Levitain, which has both better damage and a much larger range. But I didn't bother because I didn't really need it. And the second phase of Balor is no trouble. We get the Balor Soul, which we will never use because we already have Flame Demon. And here's our blue soul, Giant Bat. I equip one, it turns out to be Death. I equip a second one, hello Big Golem. Back to fumbling around in the soul menu. But there's Giant Bat, and we can continue on. Just for fun, I thought I'd see what this room looks like. There's that platform at the start. And this is the room where you can play kind of a Simon Says type game to break open this wall on the far side. But with Giant Bat, you can fly right through the top corner. The only thing in there is a rare ring, I think, but I don't need that. The Giant Bat Soul is huge. All of those vertical rooms where I couldn't figure out where to jump up, now I can just fly to the corners of any room and just fly around, and that'll make it much quicker and easier to feel my way around any room. And because of that, I'm thinking, okay, let's go into bat form and let's go up through the arena and pick up that flame sword, the Levitain. I get a little lost in this vertical room, and the Levitain is now one room away. It's just past these red minotaurs and a killer mantle or two. And a were-jaguar. It is pretty heavily guarded, I guess. But here it is. We can equip that straight away. If we couldn't see anything at all in the equipment menu, this challenge would have been much harder, I think. Thank goodness we can see just enough in the equipment menu to use it. Get stuck in a corner here for a second, and we're out of the arena. We can warp right out. At this point, there's not much left in the game. Just for fun, I take a little detour here. There's a late game secret sword up here. I don't know what it's called. It deals lightning damage. And maybe we'll use it. I get lost in here trying to find the warp. I hadn't gone far enough to the right. And I warp back to inner quarters because this is pretty close to the entrance to top floor. It's top floor. We need to fly up with Bat to reach the area proper. And here we are. I kill this final guard just in case it drops its really rare, very good sword weapon. No dice, but that's okay. Can't see much in this room, but once I saw that cockatrice enemy, I knew I was going the right way. You have to press down to go through a platform there. And this is a vertical room with a bunch of these lubricants. Famously a typo of, like, Rubicante or something. Free super potion, that's nice. There's a warp room to the right that we can use later. But now we just keep going up. Up through this room. And this is big. Our third required soul is the Succubus Soul. And this room has 2 Succubus enemies. And a big Buer in the way. This room also has this cute background effect with the flames that light only when you pass by them. This room with the wrecking ball opens up a shortcut to the clock tower that we'll never need to use, but I open it up for fun. I feel my way around this room, looking for the save room. I do like the big moon. And now I go off to the left here. In this huge room, there's something really important down at the bottom. We already have Giant Bat that lets us fly, but down here there's free, faster vertical flight. The Hippogriff Soul. An ability soul that lets us go all the way up there. Into the corner of that room, there's a Dark Sword, which is useful for one boss fight coming up. Hey, an Aranus Soul, that's kind of rare. Not that I'll be using it. Almost died to a succubus, no problem. We have potions. Almost found myself in trouble again. But there we go, lucky succubus drop. And here is a real challenge. I have to equip the succubus soul. So I can walk to the left here, and there's a cockatrice. The yellow souls are all passive abilities, so things like walking on water, walking underwater, this is that category of ability. But the succubus soul, once you hit an enemy, you should see a +5. And that's +5 health for everything that you whack. And it even includes candles. So even though there's nothing to see here, these are the famous Castlevania stairs, up and to the left, into Dracula's throne room or whatever. And here's Graham. We should have everything we need for this boss fight. I try out the Lightning Soul, thinking it might deal more damage than the Levitain, but it doesn't. So back to the Fire Sword. Even if this boss damages me, I get a nice +5 every time I damage him with my main weapon. That's phase 1 down, that's phase 2 down. There's a little cutscene, which is secretly a check if you have all the right souls equipped, which we do. If you don't, you get the bad ending of the game, and the game ends right here. But for us, there's a little bit more to see. Or, well, you know what I mean. And Graham is down. The rewards for beating Graham are Black Panther, a blue soul that I do bother to equip. There we go, found it, second try. Black Panther lets us dash. Huge, very useful. And now we're on a beeline to the end of the game. I get confused and go to the left for a second, in the room with the red minotaur and the succubus. There we go, we found the warp. And you might have noticed that I picked up a second item in the room with Black Panther. That's the Dracula tunic, one of the best equipable defense items in the game. Spoiler, I never remember that that's in my inventory. I did not go into the menu and equip that. It seems like I forgot that it's there. Back up through the floating garden. We go, I think it's left through 2 rooms and then straight right. I am correct. This takes us to this room. Well, it looks very different. You'll just have to trust me. And there's the kicker skeleton in here. That gets us the kicker skeleton soul, which is this game's dive kick. We can dive kick now. Not that I really need it much. Trying to find my way down to the next room. And here we are. I equipped that Dark Element sword, and that's for the next boss, Julius. This guy packs a punch, and you can be patient and try to take little damage, but I'm kind of just going all in here for the most part. At this rate, I'll use up most of my healing items right here. Julius has a ton of health, and he does have a second phase, but the second phase does not happen halfway through his health bar. It's more like 2/3 through his health bar. So once you hit the second phase, you know you don't have that much more to go. Here we go, phase 2. Julius is powerful enough to change the background effect. Pretty cool. I almost ran out of health there. How about some potions? Yeah, I'm playing this very impatiently. But Julius goes down. How about that eclipse effect? This is it, the final area of the game. In the game as it normally appears, this area doesn't ever have a map, but once you've been through it once or twice, you kind of know how to proceed. It's basically a spiral. And they were even nice enough to put this save room right in the middle here. I'm a little lost in this room. There we go, I find my way through it. How about some cheese to get my health back? You want to see some cheese? There's that succubus soul in action again. And this room is full of water, so we're saying goodbye to the succubus soul. We need to equip Skula again. Back to the dreaded soul set menu. There's no way to know where Skula is. I do not know the mechanics of choosing a soul and then where the other souls line up in the menu. But great news, we find it. Even though we no longer need Skula, and I could equip, say, the Headhunter Soul, which gives you a whole bunch of free stats, that's not really worth it, because I would have to fumble through the menu again. Not to mention, the yellow souls that are pure stat boosts, those would be the hardest ones to find out whether I have them equipped or not. This room is a copy of one in the arena. I don't know why I hit the corner there. But this is it, the end of the game. One last save room. When I started this, I had no idea if this run could be or would be deathless or not. But so far, you'll notice I have not died a single time. So here's the final boss, Chaos. This Fire Sword of the Leviatane has a huge hitbox and deals really good damage to almost everything in the game. Chaos Phase 1 down. And here's the hard part. This boss is neat because the way it's supposed to look is kind of abstract. And playing the game like this, it is also pretty abstract. This boss has these 4 eyes in the corner, and I want to take those down because for every one you do, it decreases the defense of the boss itself, which is the black void orb in the middle of the screen. And I'm already taking tons of damage. That's 2 eyes down. And some of these attack patterns do get pretty tough to dodge. I was just about to call them chaotic, and then I was like, no, I'm not gonna... Let's not do that. 3 eyes down, and I'm doing 22 damage to the core. Using a lot of healing items right now. I use a damage boost from one massive attack to get myself through a different massive attack. That's one way to do it. And here we go, all 4 eyes down, dealing 31 damage to the core. It's go time. My health looks pretty good. That bone dragon came out of nowhere. That's more damage, better use my pudding. Really evil bone dragon pattern there. I now have 104 health. I look for a healing item. Do I have any more healing I can use? I have 1. Just that healing item drop from the Killer Mantle in the arena. Pretty lucky. And just a few more hits later, that's the game. You can beat Castlevania Aria of Sorrow with the entire world invisible. No world to see. We get the ending dialogue with nobody speaking to nobody. And we have Soma and Mina waking back up in their blue void of nothing. And even the game's credits sequence. The credits should be scrolling up the screen right now. But there's nothing to see here. Turning the graphics layers back on, here are my final stats. I ended up being level 28. I completely forgot about the Dracula tunic. That would have given me a bunch more attack for Julius and Chaos, but that's okay. And I collected 23.6% of the enemy souls, for whatever that's worth. I can't see the map because my save is in the Chaotic Realm. So I quickly leave the Chaotic Realm, and this is what my path through the castle looked like. Mostly just the essential path. And that's the Aria of Sorrow Invisible World Challenge. If you like the video, leave it a like. And you should subscribe if you like the video or even if you don't. I'm Wing Smash Zero. See you next time. Or, you know what I mean.